scary to think about too, because for Shark and Teeny, when you see them throwing up games where they're netting over 100 points per lobby, that victory royale is just sort of looming over the heads right now of Sky and Scroll, because while it looks like it's still a pretty monumental gap between first and second, the fact of the matter is we know that Shark and Teeny can put up the numbers to match the pace. And for Cringe and Twy, now cycling right back, we know that they had a lot of success in the early off spawns yesterday, but they've got to try and make up for some of that damage they ate after dealing with Godoy and Polo. Yakuza Aza, Bimbo Radion, though, just further complicating things. You want to look for a clear angle, but it's tough because you know that there's third parties at play here, and you don't want to get sandwiched in the process.
Not at all. You have to fight carefully with the consideration of their surge struggles would mean that they maybe are just a bit more desperate for the damage now rather than wanting to deal with things later on. Sometimes that over-eagerness can just catch you out a little bit.
Can't forget about Chap and Flixie, who also seem to just be steadily closing in here. Managed to avoid any sort of attention, but Bimbo and Radion, they'll probably be some of the first to be alerted. Chap and Flixie decide to get a little bit closer still, but with the way that Cringe and Twy are currently split from each other, Lev, this could go really bad or really well in a heartbeat, because one big shot to open things up would mean great collapse there out of each other's counterpart. But for Danny Puzo and Azat playing hip to hip, they might have the advantage too. Just playing those defensive metrics. Yanis and Rax.
Oh.
That is not the kind of bounce back that you'd be aiming for in day two. Tough scenes across the board.
Rax might have some ops in the production team, man, because that was a rough one.
You hear Rax in replay, you think it's going to be elimination, right?
Look, there's a lot of people who might be watching guys for the first time. Rax is but Rax is one of the most talented players in this lobby. That is not the best he has to offer, but unfortunately, that is what he had to show in this case. For Yanis, though, he will have to do his best to get Rax back in the game, so hopefully he can start to provide some more highlights for us.
It's just even tougher still to think about, because they were sitting in that 12th place position just inside of the cusp of where they want to be. But with teams like Jewel and Tidy having success early on, you know a healthy duo is bound to be a pretty big threat here in overtaking your position. But Heatwave Harbor, not necessarily up for grabs. This is still primarily where Thomas and Focus like to operate out of, and it's interesting that they're just letting this one come to a little bit of a slower match. They saw the eliminations, Jewel and Tidy, a little bit too quick, so no real third-party options just yet. As you go Malabuka, Lurk game one didn't go so well. Lurk this time around, well, a bit better, but still nowhere near what they needed it to be at. And that early elimination is just going to continue to pose a lot of drawback for this duo.
Cammy and Hari, a team who I think their performances surprised a lot of people yesterday. But I think showcasing a lot of what has made both of these players so great throughout their careers. Thomas and Focus, I think, are yet to show us their greatness. Two players who have all the talent to be competing for FNCS titles, but are yet to really push themselves into that type of standing.
Still can't count them out just yet, though. We know that with the way a lot of these zones have been going, it's kind of worked against them.
What do you think needs to change for them, though? I feel like we've just not really seen them be a factor in any of these endgames whether it be playing for height in power positions or low ground, mid ground dominance. We haven't really seen them play.
Genuinely just want to see them get much more aggressive way earlier on. You've got two of the best aimers on the region in one duo, and yet it feels like we only ever really get an opportunity to check in with them being a bit fraggy if somebody's trying to challenge for the vending around Heatwave Harbor, but they're just capable of so much more. We've seen them be so much more, and in a Grand's lobby, it would be, I think, a huge favor to themselves to just also start reminding the region exactly what sort of potential the public eye has always kind of looked at them at.
So we saw Nebs and Nathan taking shots towards Sky and Scroll, and we wondered, will it affect them much? Seemingly, not so much for now. Based up as usual, looking for damage, and he might just find some off over to Pablo and Chino.
Pablo and Chino might have plans of their own, though. And remember, they were the only team to actually challenge Sky and Scroll in that first major. But so just check back in and see whether or not that actually goes either way for those two teams, Flixie and Chap. They've been lurking a bit, still didn't necessarily get a clear pairing of eliminations that they would have liked to Ivan or Hizix. Still have bendings to play through from Golden Grove though. Sharktini, another duo, just continuing to kind of scope out the area, gauge whether or not they'll have enough surge to kind of carry them through for that late game circumstances. But they're making it very difficult for teams to actually cut through this section of the map. Actually got a handful in their sights, Tidy and Jewel, but it's Teeny who's actually on the receiving end of some damage for the moment. Debated if he should just pause and heal. Fortunately, they're not going to be able to get much more than that for the time being.
Yeah, that's really bad. When you're playing a storm like this, you're banking on being able to deal as much as you can for as minimal received back. And so for them to not really get much damage off of Tidy and Jewel whatsoever, you can see, yeah, the desperation for Teeny, who sort of wants to just hunt them down and see if he can sneak any sort of tag or any sort of damage. The question becomes, will Tidy and Jewel be ready for this? Maybe not. They've run into Bimbo and Radion, and that distraction might just be enough to allow Teeny to lurk his way on in and get some free damage to make up for what's lost.
Based on where Shark's at, Shark might have even been able to relay to Teeny the sort of box fight that's beginning to unfold here as Jewel, Tidy, a little bit stuck now, trying to contend with Radion and Bimbo, but both Tidy and Bimbo looking incredibly low. Teeny, the potentially, probably, this could be a great opportunity to strike, but he's still playing it patient, still wants to ensure that when he does make his entrance, that it's going to net him surge. It's going to net him damage, but now Shark and Teeny, you'll have to watch as their prey just takes this fight somewhere else, completely out of the eye of where Shark was actually based at. And for Tidy and Jewel, this is definitely a very beneficial win here as they take down Bimbo and Radion. That's going to make 4 eliminations already for these two.
That's been one of the most fun things about watching Tidy and Jewel today. They are not afraid of a fight. In fact, they allow fights to play into their favor. They want to get aggressive. They want to box fight people. Truly, and Mr. Savage just allowing this competition to maybe slip through their fingers just a bit. Day 1 was certainly a good start. Win to start the day and finished in top 10. A great performance, a great spot to be in. And today was just about continuing more of the same. Unfortunately, not quite there yet, but still plenty of games to get back into rhythm.
Savage and Truly also taking note of some of the players trying to make their way back down, touching solid ground. Minori not going to get the chance, will be dropped here, but the nature of this lobby for day 2, everyone seems to be playing at a much slower pace in comparison to how day 1 sort of panned out, and part of the reason why we see so many teams struggling for their surge. Initially, everyone had kind of been a lot more willing, I think, to sort of duke things out off spawn, but today's competition, it's all about who can play the Storm the best, not get tagged up on their way towards the edge of zone here. But Yanis Rax, they need a recovery point, especially after that early mistake. And there's ever a time to do it, it would certainly be right now. Only 18 above on the damage threshold, and material count not exactly where it needs to be. They want to pose further threat here. And yeah, just like that, Surge starting to work against them. They only need a little bit. Not a lot, but even then, no one really providing them much of an opportunity here.
Let's take a look at what Gonzo's cooking up. Patiently waiting at the toilet and... oh boy, cheating and Geras. Didn't see what hit him.
Rajab and Gonzo, we saw them keeping out the methods of transportation, just not seeming to be very safe when these two are in the lobby, but that's definitely going to pay them huge favors, these rotations. Managed to try and isolate a bit from the rest of the lobby. They know Pinker is directly next to them. Nathan Nebs also just underneath the bridge face. Sky and Scroll could be in a world of hurting here. It all depends on just how far Savage and Truly actually want to take this, but Savage doesn't have the luxury of deciding. He just needs to start getting active alongside his duo, Truly. They are currently below on the search threshold, and neither of them has any form of shield. They're going to have to depend on body loot to make up the difference here. Hellfire and Winter. This is not going to be an easy battle for them to overtake. Savage and Truly instead reconsidering just when they want to try and pounce here. Sky and Scroll, no stoppage whatsoever. They were in some trouble. They managed to bail themselves right back out.
What a game it would be if, after witnessing Sharkentini win with 10 eliminations and start to at least encourage people and give them hope that this will be a close competition of some sort, if they were to just come through and just win this game and completely shut up that whole narrative, Truly and Mr. Savage unfortunately go down, and once more we'll have to hit the drawing board.
Interesting shot right now, though. The way that everyone's trying to scale up the elevation. Eyedrop and Gonzo just trailing behind where Sky and Scroll were at. Teeny and Shark, though, they'll have the best seat in the house currently. Just looking down at everyone else trying to crawl their way up this mountain face and not really providing any sort of a safety net. Gotta be cautious, though. Gonzo has made his approach. Largely just wanted the positioning, but Sky and Scroll, only that one elimination so far. And Nebs and Nathan kind of playing a bit of spoiler early on. The surge is seemingly a problem right now for these two.
But look at their positioning. They have access to dead side and they're able to just walk through. Look at all the congestion on the right of the zone. And Sky and Scroll, the only duo in the lobby on the left. Look at all the time they have to work with. They don't have to block off the angles. They don't have to do anything. There's nobody around to cause them issues. I always talk about how these guys, it just feels like whenever you watch them, they have more time than the rest of the lobby to play with. And this is a perfect showcase of that here. And in such a great position here on dead side, they can look to refarm, maximize their materials as they move into this endgame, where once again, it will be the same script. Dominate front side low ground, wipe out the solos, and win the game.
And while it's true that they did have more time than most, the build count still not looking the healthiest, though. completely lock down that front side position. It all depends on how much material was actually expended from so many other teams that had to actually work their way through that congestion on the mountain face. So surely ample teams still working with scraps here, but Skrull takes a big chunk out of his shield count. As now Shark and Teeny close in on Focus. It's a very solid elimination for these two to pick up, and they are still perched in a good spot. Potentially try and challenge for a height if they don't already have the best control of it so far, but Sky, Skrull, they need a refresh as Frosty and Josh, though, really making them work for it. Skrull has taken a bit of a beating here, but Sky immediately alleviating all of that pressure. A little bit of siphon materials, too, gonna go a long way for these two as they manage to circumvent the focus and pressure out of the congested areas in the lobby. They are ultimate low, and no one is anywhere near them.
Yeah, and look, who holds high ground? Asa and Turtle, they came second in the last game. They are a team that desperately is trying to force a comeback into a global championship qualifying position. Cammy, unfortunately, will get dropped. There is no room for error in this one. Teeny and Shark know that, though. And so they look to continue their aggression, use the momentum they have.
It's just so hard to tell, though, where these players are going to start dropping in on you from. Everyone just swooping in at the final seconds because of how heavily this elevation just shifts at a moment's notice here. But Teeny and Shark still doing a great job controlling the flow of the lobby for the most part. Even with Asa and Turtle overhead, as long as they can avoid their direct view, they can still lock down this middle layer of front side. But Sky and Skrull, they'll definitely be a duo to try and size up to later on. Good chop right now out of Teeny and Shark. But Asa, Turtle, even with them dropping, it's now just gonna be the open entry point that Shark and Teeny were waiting for. These two currently on the high ground, but they are going to need more if they want to try and hold on to it. They don't have a whole lot of builds up there as Sky and Skrull just continue to make their presence known on the low ground.
Yeah, some more players on this layer that they need to deal with. They found their refresh when they needed it before. Can they do it again? You'd have to think the answer will be yes. The zone starts to pull towards the north. It gives them a bit more time to try force this fight onto Electris. And the pressure will continue, but eventually you have to move. No materials left for Skrull. And Sky will have to drop what he has to offer. And again, for a second, they will just find a bit of breathing room, a bit of space to set up for that next fight.
But look at the angle, Sky knows it. High ground is looking directly at them, but they need the refreshes, and they're going to manifest them every single time here, it seems. Sky and Skrull now just tearing through anyone who dares come near them on the low ground. But Shark, Teeny still looking to see if they can replicate that Game 8 success. Sky goes up and immediately takes a whopping shot here. Sky and Skrull in the last 2v2, but it's actually going to be them who turn it around. You would think that Shark and Teeny are about to bring this one home, and just like that, Sky and Skrull have 180 the positioning. Another victory royale. This is getting ridiculous here, Frankie.
It is getting ridiculous, but it's also getting better and better. The action just keeps on coming. The twists, the turns, having Sky and Skrull go head-to-head with their nearest rivals, Shark and Teeny, is just cinematic perfection, Mini Miner, and I expect to see more of that going to the next few games.
Wow, that was two of our top teams going head-to-head. We haven't really seen that too much throughout this weekend directly, but wow, how important could that moment be in terms of the momentum for Sky and Skrull? Maybe nipping it in the bud, if you like, for Shark and Teeny, because they were looking really good right there. But wow, Sky and Skrull, I mentioned it at the end of that last game. These guys are so good when they're, you know, stacked on mats, they're front side, they're looking great. But when things aren't looking so great for them, like in this game, Levin mentioned it, they were sort of on their own, just on literally the other side of the map to the rest of the lobby. Taco mentioned it really nicely as well in the casts, that they didn't have all those materials. They needed to find refreshes. Right here, look at this, 4 bills in 8th zone. What is going on? And for a lot of teams, that would really throw them off. That would really make everything from there on out just crumble. But for Sky and Skrull, they seem to somehow always find these refreshes to Casa and then continue to make it happen. These guys seemingly, there's no faults, there's no holes, there's no chinks in their armor.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's incredible how well they play frontside low. Like, it is disgusting. I almost have to do a double take here in these final moments because, okay, Sharktini, yeah, you know, it's Sky Scroll, but Sharktini are high. Surely they win the game, right? Nope. Scroll somehow lands every single shot, takes out Shark after, and I was like, wait, hold on. Okay, my whole storyline thing has been messed up now. It's like, yeah, Sharktini's gonna win, but Sky Scroll's playing consistent, blah, blah, blah. It's not even getting to that, because Sky and Scroll are looking so unstoppable.
I love how every single movement from them and every single act of aggression is so calculated. And that's why they don't make any mistakes, because they're constantly assessing every single rotation, every single interaction with their enemies on the map. And I can't wait to see more. So we'll see you guys in a few minutes to talk about what else went down in Game 9.
I got hit with that one off. I'm popping in that bit. Wait, short. Got 6 build? No, max up. Wait, if you're mid, wait. 100! 100! Oh my god! No! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Milk can help you grow. Milk can't prevent your ride from blasting into space.
There are just 3 more games of FNCS Europe's Major 2 Grand Final. So let's take a look at the Players in Focus powered by Milk to see who the big hitters in the lobby are. There's no prizes for guessing that Sky is absolutely dominating. And of course, Pablo's clutching incredibly mini-minor.
Yeah, shall I take Sky, Takai? Yeah, he's top in eliminations, damage style, AR damage and damage ratio, of course, but just unreal the way that Sky is playing. We spoke a lot about these guys individually, so talented. Sky right now showing up, of course, throughout the weekend. And again, I suppose the fact that he's not in the solo clutch position right there, Takara, is a good thing, because it just shows, it's like they're actually playing well as a duo, and Pablo isn't as well. So it's still impressive from him, though.
Right, arguably, like I was about to mention that. I was like, you know what? That's actually like he couldn't have played it out better in terms of the stats. It says players, you know, at the top, it's just player at this point. Sky's looking unstoppable. Yeah,
it's nice to see Scroll not being the solo points clutch leader. Clutch solo points, you know what I'm talking about, because if we were thinking back to Major 1, he probably would be there. Even Summit, would probably be there. So it's a vast improvement from these guys. And I mean, they are looking unstoppable. The only people who could stop them are Shark and Teeny, but they're now 244 points behind. Yesterday, Shark and Teeny, they just didn't have the discipline, it felt like, to really pull off the games that they needed to until game 6. Is it too late now to Carter is the question I have for you.
I mean, it's never too late in Fortnite, right? You don't know what can happen. We've seen early game devastations happen as tournaments concluded, but it's getting there, right? I mean, 622 points for Sky and Scroll. They have an average placement of 5.1. Shark and Teeny are behind them on that stat at 11.2, more than double their average placement. So they are just playing way too good for anyone to be close to them right now.
And honestly, Frankie, I think if you'd asked me that question and Shark and Teeny had won this game, I'd be like, nah, not too late. Look at them. They just wiped Sky and Scroll right here. They were on the high ground. They were dominating that end game. They put themselves in the position and took down the team ahead of them. The fact that Sky and Scroll still won that game, despite all the things going against them early on in the game, low on builds, needed refreshes, low ground in a zone that was all over the place in terms of hills, you have to just say that Sky and Scroll is taking this. But it's really nice to see Shark and Teeny come into their own here in day 2 because we all knew they were capable of it. It's actually nice to see them actually showing it now.
Well, iDrop and Gonzo currently in 3rd place and definitely looking like we're going to be seeing them in Belgium. So more Danish fans will be very happy tonight. And the thing about this duo is they have had some up and down moments. They've gone 3rd, 37th, and then 10th today to Carter. Can they keep the yo-yo in the air and make their way, well, solidify their place on the leaderboard? They're not probably going further, are they?
I think they can. They can hold their place for sure. I mean, their matches haven't been the best, but they've been significantly better from their matches that concluded yesterday. As a reminder, they kicked it off super strong, back-to-back 4th places, but then it was the polar opposite. Now today, I'm happy with how they're playing, honestly. I'm excited to see them qualify to globals if they continue this pace.
And Kami and Hari, again, another team that's trying to build back into things, find some stability. Unfortunate start today with the surprise contestation, but now we are seeing them make it off spawn, mini minor, and into the end games. I just feel like there's still opportunities they need to find to pop off even more.
Oh, for sure. And I think stability is the key word, really, because, of course, they were shaken at the beginning of the day. The stability that they had from day 1 was completely knocked. And now they're slowly starting to get back into things. This is exactly what they need to do. They need to maintain their position right now, try and break into maybe that top 3, because the top 2 right now is just looking so much further ahead. And I think they're a team that can do it. I think in a lot of these sort of lobbies and a lot of day 2 of Grands, we've sort of seen it with Cringe and Twy.